Final Fantasy XIV in the year 2026. A year of excitement and course correction, or a really slow year? Or perhaps a mix of both. Let's go over the state of Final Fantasy XIV as we go into 2026, what we can expect, and hopefully what we'll see. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and first stop, the Korean live letter.
And it is in much better shape than expected.
For our first stop in 2026, let us have a gander at the most reliable source of information on the entire internet, Reddit. Because at the Korean live letter, Yoshi P answered a few questions. And I believe this Reddit post is supposed to be summarizing this. And it uses Yumadori as a source, but it can't link for whatever reason. Someone else replied with the link to it. I'll leave a link to this Reddit post in the description down below. A question asks if there can be armory chest storage added for relic weapons tools. The player says they have to use a retainer's entire item storage for their finished relics. Yoshida says that rather than adding more storage for these, they are planning to add a system where you could possibly have a set exchange, or the ability to reacquire finished relics. I mean, okay, sure. Again, this feels like it's a symptom of the back-end nightmare that is Final Fantasy XIV's code, where in an ideal world, you would just do basically what World of Warcraft does here. Once I acquire the item, I've unlocked its appearance and I no longer need the item. I can just bring up an index of all the appearances in the game, and because it's registered that, hey, I've unlocked this, I can just click, I already can just slap it on my glamour, Bob's your uncle. I wish Final Fantasy XIV could get that squared away, but okay, yeah, whatever. On a question about updates to character customization, hold yourself, Yoshida said to look forward to future announcements, and that he believes they have a solid foundation from the updates made so far. For the love of God, and I'm going to continue to hop in on this, please give me actually decent beard options. Why that tied to my face, I will never understand. And also, I play a male Highlander. Can I please have eyebrows? I do not care about the lore. Said it before and I'll say it again. I have a very easy test to, in my opinion, judge whether or not a character creator is good or bad. Can I make a tall, bald dude with red hair, like a beard and a mustache? Can I do that? And not like the weak beard options that Final Fantasy XIV has. I mean like actually good beards. If I can't do that, I say the character creator is bad. If I can do that, I'm golden. So I'm gonna go full copium here and hope that 8.0 is able to give me what I need. He mentions that many players are asking for a free exploration option for Alliance raids, so the team will look into adding this in a future update. We already do this with dungeons. We did it with, funnily enough, the Nier raids back in Shadowbringers. Like 95% of the player base will probably never use something like this. As someone who makes content for Final Fantasy XIV, it is so nice to be able to just go into a dungeon sometimes and get a different aesthetic to show off various like combat animations. It's very nice. And also, Yoshida acknowledges a user's complaint that since Dawn Trailer can only have weak or normal settings for glare, not none, so he will try to add this back in, thank God. I probably won't turn it off, but it's nice having it as an option. So yeah, this is a frequent thing with Yoshi P, especially over the last couple of patch cycles. It really feels as if he's like teeing up the FanFest announcements. It's like, guys, we know we have to change some things. We want to make some changes. We want to make some big changes at that. We got some things down the pipeline you may look forward to. We got some ideas. We're excited to announce them. It really does feel as if they have a lot to announce at the FanFests. That doesn't mean when we get to the North American FanFest, he's going to announce everything and just empty the gun. That's not what that means. There will be a total of 3 FanFests, at least as of now, one in North America, one in Europe, and the final one in Japan. And over the course of those various FanFests, they reveal more and more information for the next expansion and also reveal more of the actual cinematic. This is standard course for Final Fantasy XIV. I don't see why they would deviate from that here. So when we get to the North American FanFest, they'll reveal some information, but not all of it. But I am very interested to see just how different 8.0 is going to be overall. I still believe in my heart of hearts that it's still going to look and feel and play like Final Fantasy XIV. There's no real reason to change that. It's just the execution on some things and the strict adherence to tradition that may be going the way of the dodo. We'll see. Time will tell.
And it is in much better shape than expected.
Okay, so now for the game, and if you thought 2025 was a bit of a slow year for Final Fantasy XIV because of the gap between patch updates, oh boy, 2026 is about to hit like a freight train. So there's one more major patch for Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail, and that's 7.5. So I don't think anyone actually expects 8.0 to come out in 2026. What does that mean? Well, 7.45, 7.5, 7.55, yeah, Okay, so hear me out. We won't have that many patches, but these do kind of look like they could be the best patches in Dawntrail, just looking at what's coming into the game with them. In 7.45, we're going to get the new variant dungeon, which looks really interesting to me. The staying power of it will be entirely dependent on the reward structure behind it. A tale as old as time. We'll get some smaller things like cosmic exploration. Well, I guess it's not small if you love like crafting and gathering, but you know what I mean. Dailies, that kind of stuff, right? But 7.5 actually looks pretty substantial and like it could be the biggest patch in all of Dawntrail for a couple of reasons. We're getting the new zone for the Occult Crescent. I know not everyone cared about the first version of Occult Crescent. However, if you look back to Bosja, you go from the Southern Front to Zadnor, and they made quite a few changes to the overall formula that I think made it overall better experience. They could do the same here when we get to the next zone in the Occult Crescent. And we know for the Fork Tower-esque feature coming in with that new version of the Occult Crescent, they're already going to make some changes to that, such as more difficulty modes. That's a thumbs up in my book, and I think with some good tweaks to the overall formula that can make the Occult Crescent have way more staying power, at least for me, than what the Occult Crescent in its first iteration brought to the table. Hopefully they do a good job with that. We'll have to see. The other thing is Beastmaster. Now, we know basically nothing about it right now. We have to wait for an upcoming live letter for them to actually talk about it and reveal it. We don't know the shape, the form, or the function of Beastmaster. We know it's going to be a limited job, so in the style of Blue Mage, you're not going to be running the latest ultimate with it. By the way, yeah, we're getting another ultimate almost certainly. But when it comes to Beastmaster and the way a limited job operates is you'll be running probably a bunch of old content, and maybe they add something like the Masked Carnival, which was this like series of challenges that were unique to Blue Mage that you can still do for some decent like weekly rewards, by the way. They'll probably add something similar to that for Beastmaster. I thought Blue Mage was quite fun. I do agree with the overall idea that limited jobs can be really disappointing because you're taking an entire like job fantasy and basically making it a side mini game instead of finding a way to make it work with the base game. And I think that's going to sting a lot of people even harder when we get the Beastmaster, which will probably almost certainly be about going and finding various animals and creatures and befriending them like a traditional ranger or hunter in like another MMORPG, or, WoW, or like any other RPG, that pet-based class. There's a lot of people that love that fantasy and the idea that in Final Fantasy XIV, I mean, you got Summoner, cool dude, but a lot of people love befriending various animals, having the ability to fight with them, name them, potentially even customize them. It brings a unique charm to the table. And for Final Fantasy XIV, that's not going to be a main job. That's going to be a side limited job. That's going to rub some people the wrong way. Understandably so, don't get me wrong here. However, I would argue that where we're at right now, where we're looking at 2026 and we're looking at, we aren't going to get all that much here, having some kind of content, if they execute on it well, and they make Beastmaster fun, and they add some unique challenges like the Masked Carnival to Beastmaster, I think that could be a really nice thing just to sink your teeth into, to give you an excuse and a reason to want to play Final Fantasy XIV in a year that is likely not to bring much to the table for large swaths of it. It's like 2026 will largely be focused on the fan fests. When we get the announcement for 8.0, when we find out where we're going next, what system overhauls might be coming, what job changes might end up looking like, and whatever the heck happens in 7.5's MSQ. And of course, the Ultimate Raid and the Alliance Raid. There is stuff coming into the game, and some people will say, wow, this is a massive content drought. I played World of Warcraft back at the end of Mists of Pandaria and also throughout Warlords of Draenor. I know a content drought. This is barely anything. We had over a year of just Siege of Orgrimmar. Just Siege of Orgrimmar. I feel like Natsuki Subaru telling Garfield Tinsel, I know hell. This is like an average Tuesday. I've been through the ringer. I'm not saying that makes this good or anything. I'm just saying it's not as bad or cataclysmic as I imagine some people are gonna make it out to be. And also, in my opinion, I would rather them work behind the scenes to make 8.0 a better product, because I think we can all agree they need to nail 8.0. You lost a lot of confidence and blind trust when it comes to 7.0, when it comes to Dawntrail. A lot of us understand that. You're not going to win everyone back over, but if 8.0 is good enough, that can right the ship. Nothing is like irredeemable when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV right now. The game's not like dead. It's not like any of that. And we can see a surge in popularity and anticipation and excitement for this game again if 8.0 nails it. So I'm more than willing for them to take their time, do what they need to make sure 8.0 comes out as a great product overall. And if it doesn't, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I don't want them to go, oh dude, people don't like Dawn Trail, let's just like rush 8.0 just to get it out the door. I don't want that to happen because that will have even worse long-term ramifications for the game than just saying, let's do this right, let's take our time like we normally do, execute on this well, and then get it out the door when it's ready. That is seemingly what they're going to do. I am in favor of that. So that's what I think 2026 is going to be largely dominated by. Obviously 7.5, but for the rest of it, it's going to be hype and anticipation for the fan fest and the announcement for 8.0 when we get there. They're not going to like pump out 15 different patches filled with content. That ain't happening. No one expected that. Final Fantasy 14 is like clockwork. It works on a schedule and it's very predictable to the point where they don't even have to announce a patch and most people can just predict when the patch is actually going to come out because they adhere so much to a schedule. So we know 7.5 is almost certainly coming out. I think it's like 2 weeks after the fan fest, like something like that. Of course, unless they delay something for whatever reason. I'm not expecting any big surprises. I don't expect them to announce, guys, we're doing 7.6. I don't think they're going to do that. I'm looking forward to the changes 7.5 may bring to the table. I'm looking forward to the fan fests. I think it will be an overall slow year, but I don't think that means it's going to be a stagnant year either. It will be a very important one. And how hype 8.0 will be, time will tell.
And it is in much better shape than expected.
So I had the video all recorded and edited and ready to go, but something kept scratching at the back of my very psyche saying, Jmulls, you are forgetting something. I forgot about the mobile version. So it is technically already out in certain regions, I think China. And while we don't know necessarily when the global version is going to come out, I'm not even entirely sure if we know that there is going to be a global version. I don't really see why not though. That could come out in 2026 so long as they're not mentally incompetent. But it is Square Enix and they never brought this back, so who knows? That's another thing that could bring a little bit of excitement to Final Fantasy XIV and at minimum introduce the game to a lot of other people that may not have been exposed to the game before. What I think it could also really do, and I don't really know how effective or important this will actually be in the grand scheme of things, I think some people will get annoyed by the things that the mobile game are able to do that the actual desktop client of Final Fantasy XIV is incapable of doing or just doesn't do right now. I think quite a few of us have seen some of the cosmetics that are there already in the mobile version of FF14, and I look at my guy and I'm just like, why can't that be you? Like, I get it, don't get me wrong, the back-end code for Final Fantasy XIV's mobile version is different than the desktop version, right? I get that, I understand that. However, we can all look at this objectively and say it's not a good look that the mobile version of the game is almost capable of more in certain elements and ways than the desktop version that I play on my PC, or your PlayStation, or your Xbox, or soon to be Nintendo. We'll get to that. It's just not a good look. And while I do think there'll be some crossover between people that play Final Fantasy XIV on the desktop or the PlayStation, Xbox, soon to be Nintendo, I really got to find a way to shorten that. And also their phone, sure, there'll be some overlap there. I don't really see like the majority of the regular client of Final Fantasy XIV's player base also playing the mobile version. Because don't get me wrong, mobile gaming is a massive market. I also tend to find in my non-empirical experience, right? Just saying this with my gut, I feel like the mobile scene is very different from like the traditional desktop PC gaming and console gaming. Like those are largely two separate audiences. And it wouldn't surprise me if a group of people only play the mobile version of Final Fantasy XIV and never touch the desktop version. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, to my knowledge, the mobile version is largely headed up by a different team, so I don't particularly see the problem with there being a mobile version of FF14 because it doesn't seem as if it's taking resources in a significant capacity away from the main version of the game. I don't particularly see a problem with that, but I think the other element to all of this is the other port that is almost certainly coming for Final Fantasy XIV because Yoshi P basically just said, yeah, look forward to it. And I paraphrase that a little bit, but I'm also not that off the mark with it. It's not just a rumor when Yoshi P himself says, please look forward to the Switch version. And I know, especially online, there's a lot of like negative discussion and reception to like Nintendo and the Switch 2. That is not representative of how people actually like buying things. The Switch 2 is borderline dominating. And I know we can look at that sales figure for like, I think it was Christmas and the overall holiday season for like North America. America and the PS5 outsold it. That's not necessarily the rest of the world though, especially in Japan, and we know just how much Japanese companies prioritize the Japanese market. The Switch 2 is dominating. The numbers it's bringing in are crazy. I think it's still outpacing the original Switch, which is nutty to me. But you're going to see this a lot more, not just with Square Enix, but we are seeing this with Square Enix. A lot of games are going to port over to Switch 2 because that's where a lot of players are going right now. And if you're a game company, it just doesn't make that much sense to ignore that growing market. And for a game like Final Fantasy XIV, why not just make another version? It's like Final Fantasy XIV may no longer run on the PS3. It used to though. The Switch 2 is way more powerful than that. Yeah, it's not as powerful as my 4080 Super gaming PC or like a PS5 or a PS5 Pro. Sure, but we're also not running like Cyberpunk 2077 with a realistic graphics mod and like full ray tracing over here. We're not doing that. And so long as they can get it into a playable state, they're going to port the thing. So long as Nintendo, you know, lets them, and I don't see why they wouldn't. If you don't, you're just leaving money on the table. Square Enix is a company. You would think they would not want to just leave money on the table, though again, I bring up this one because sometimes Square Enix and Squaresoft doesn't make the best of decisions. But they've been recently like doubling down on going full multi-platform and all that. It just makes a ton of sense for them to come to the Switch 2. I think it's one of the reasons that they're not even like really hiding it, and Yoshi P just comes out and says, yeah, please look forward to the Switch version, is because everyone kind of knows that's what's going to happen. It's probably the worst kept secret for the future of FF14, and it's like the easiest prediction in the known world right now. So long as they're physically capable of doing it, they're almost certainly going to do it. I mean, heck, you can get Final Fantasy XIV playable on things like the Steam Deck. You can play it on like gaming laptops as well. So like for people that might like concern themselves with saying, oh, I gotta play with Wi-Fi people, you probably already are. And like I said in the video that I made a couple of days ago about this entire issue, I am in favor of when games come out to more platforms because I fundamentally don't like the concept of exclusivity. Sometimes it can be important, and sometimes it can be the reason a game or a game series exists. I'm a Xenoblade fan, but when possible, I will always support a game going multi-platform. Being loyal as a consumer to a plastic box is idiotic. But putting that all to the side, I said it before, and I'll say it again. One of the biggest reasons I want there to be a Switch version is simply for the insults that will be born as a result. You're not a bad player, you're a Switch player. Oh, that's gonna hit. You watch a guy walk off a cliff or walk into like a death zone during a boss, that's a Switch player. The memes will be legend, wait for it, dairy.
And it is in much better shape than expected.
Here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what you're thinking 2026 is going to bring to the table for Final Fantasy XIV. Are you excited? Are you looking forward to it? What are you mainly looking forward to? And let me guess, is it FanFest? And if you could make one change to the game for 8.0, what would it be? And why would it be beards? I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, one other thing. Yoshi P basically said we're getting a Switch version of Final Fantasy XIV. Now, we don't know if that's coming out in 2026, right? It could be an 8.0 thing. However, there is a chance that we get another port of Final Fantasy XIV in the year 2026. Want to find out more about this? Well, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.